Hello, my name is Jennifer Schlegel, and I'd like to offer a few words about the upcoming readings for the fourth Sunday after Epiphany. And in studying these passages, one word kept popping up in my mind and in my heart, and that word is persistence. The first reading comes from Jeremiah, the first chapter, verses 4 through 10. So this is the calling of Jeremiah. And if we only ever read these words from Jeremiah, we might think, hey, this guy's got it good. Because yes, God's tasked him with a difficult challenge, but God's there. God reassures Jeremiah that God has been with him since before he was born, that God has blessed him to be a prophet and speak God's truth. God promises to rescue Jeremiah from the people God sends him to, and God blesses his mouth so that Jeremiah might be able to speak those truths in ways they are heard. But check out verse 10, where God then says to Jeremiah, "See, today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant." Jeremiah's task was not easy. For 40 years he spoke to the people. He faced incredible odds, resistance, and self-doubt. It didn't feel good to do this work. Nevertheless, he persisted in telling God's truth. The psalm is the first 6 verses of Psalm 71. And this is one of the psalms where the psalmist talks about taking refuge in God. But we have to actively seek it. We must ask for God's help and trust in God's plan. God has been that refuge for all of us from the start of our lives, just like for Jeremiah. God is a constant, persistent refuge for all of us. And then the next reading is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 13, the well-known love verses. So how many of us read these verses and immediately recall a wedding scene? 2 people pledging to join their lives together in love with all of its wonderful attributes of patience, kindness, trust, protection, hope, and perseverance. And then there are all the things love isn't. It's not boastful or proud, dishonoring, self-seeking, easily angered, or grudgeful. These are wonderful words indeed. And many couples know this type of love to be aspirational. But the type of love and loving relationships God is referring to is not aspirational. It's the real, perfect love that God shows us in Jesus. God's love is a constant, persistent love. That love never fails. The Gospel is the 4th chapter of Luke, verses 21 through 30. And the gospel for last Sunday are the verses immediately preceding this Sunday's gospel. So recall that Jesus has just taken out the scroll and read from Isaiah saying, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And then he announces to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." And that's where this Sunday's gospel picks up. Imagine the excitement of the Nazarenes. Their native son, Joseph's boy, is the anointed one. They were so pleased, so proud of Joseph's boy. They've heard what he's been doing, all the teaching he's been doing, and now he's home, and the Nazarenes are expecting Jesus to do his Jesus thing for them. The anointed one is one of us. But then he speaks, and the people of his hometown are furious, so much so that they would have him die on their hill. Dying on a hill comes a little bit later, though. So what did he say that made them so mad? He told them the truth about themselves. He told them they would not accept him as a prophet. All of their excitement was built on what might be in it for them, rather than being able to truly hear, behold, and act on what Jesus would have them and all of us do. So Jesus persisted in telling them the truth about themselves. And that's the gospel truth. So here we go. Jeremiah persisted in telling God's truth. The psalmist reminds us of the persistent refuge we have in God. Paul describes God's perfect, persistent love. Jesus persisted in telling the Nazarenes the truth about themselves. So as we go about our week, I pray that we feel God's persistent truth, God's persistent refuge, God's persistent love, especially when Jesus reveals truths about ourselves that we don't want to hear. Looking forward to seeing you in church on Sunday, or perhaps you're viewing online. Either way, I wish you a blessed week.